QFT, if you remember, there are certain rules that we have to follow. So we're going to go over the rules before we get started. Okay, ready? Read the rule with me. Ready?
Ask as many questions as you can.
Our goal is to generate questions. Not necessarily, they'll get better as we go, but our main goal is to get as many questions out on the paper as we can so that it will help our brains to keep thinking of more and more questions. Okay, thumbs up if you think you can ask as many questions as you can. Really good at that, right? I'll say it. Okay, ready? Rule number 2. Read it with me.
Do not stop to discuss, judge, or answer any questions.
All right, who can tell me what that means? What does that mean?
It means that if someone asks a question they already know, they don't split up the answer.
Outstanding. Do not just answer a question because maybe it's not even the right answer. Maybe we still need to explore it a little bit more. Don't answer it. What else? What else does this mean?
It means that you shouldn't be talking about what's this question, why did you choose this question, and don't judge it, don't go, this isn't a very good question, maybe you should change it.
Yeah, outstanding. So we're not going to say that's not a good question, but you might think in your head, now, that's not the best question, and maybe you can reword a better question and then share that question with your group and get it on the paper. Because sometimes if you're just generating a lot of questions, the first one that comes to your head isn't the best question ever, but as you keep thinking, they get better and better, okay? So we're not judging them, we're not talking about them, all we're doing is what?
Ask as many questions as you can.
Got it. All right. Ready? Next one. Read it with me.
Change any statement into a question.
I don't think you're going to have to do this because you're thinking about asking questions, but if for some reason somebody says a statement, then you're going to work as a group to turn that into a question so that it gets on your paper as a question. We don't want any statements on our paper. We only want what?
Questions.
Outstanding. Ready? And our last one.
Write down every question exactly as it is stated.
Sometimes recorders like to reword what somebody says, and that's not what we're going to do. The person who has the marker, the recorder, is going to do the very best to write every single word that the people say exactly the way it's said, okay? If somebody says, what is your favorite pizza? Then that's exactly what you're going to write down, okay? You're not going to say, oh, did you mean? That's discussing and talking about. You're just going to write it exactly as it is, okay? Now, there's a rule on here, the rule that is not listed here that is really important for our work because we also are going to have a topic or a focus, and we want all of our questions to be related to that focus. So, it is okay as a group, if somebody asks a really random question that has nothing to do with our focus, as a group you can say, that's not on the focus, and you're not going to write it down, okay? So we want the questions to be about the focus so that we can generate some really great questions. Mr. Tack is going to use these questions to help you as you start this brand new unit, okay? So you want them to be great questions that you really care about, that you want to explore and you want to learn about, okay? So I'm going to read the focus to you so that you can be thinking about it and already start thinking about questions when we go back to the table. I already put your paper on the table and a marker on the table, so when Mr. Tack, when you go back to your seat, Mr. Tack will say who the recorder is for each group, the person who writes it down, okay? Small detail. Recorders, make sure that you number the questions down the side and that you skip a line after each question. That will help us later, okay? Number the questions, skip a line. Got it? And it doesn't have to be your neatest, best handwriting ever. You need to write quickly and then well enough that we can read it. All right, here's our focus. This is where we are going to generate our questions. You ready? Let's read it out loud.
Living things within an ecosystem depend on one another to exist in an optimum environment.
That's kind of a mouthful, isn't it? Okay, I want you to start thinking about questions. Remember, there's not a bad question, not necessarily a good question. We're going to keep generating questions to help us come to the best questions that we want to learn about. Okay? So, without any talking, back to the table. Focus at your table is there for you. Some good ideas to think about. Think about the vocabulary within the focus, because those could be some good questions. And then generate your questions. The person with the marker is the recorder, and when you're you're ready, talk quietly within your group so that you can hear. Give the recorder time to write the question down. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to generate as many questions as you can on your focus. You may begin now.
Don't answer.
Oh, we're not discussing it. If you said it, you write it down.
Okay, Colin, what did you say?
Are there any different optimum environments?
You should have the question in your hand. You should write them all down. Final question. Put your marker down and turn your eyes towards me. Group still has questions. It's okay. You're good. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through and we're going to classify our questions into two different types of questions. They're either open questions or closed questions. And here's how we're going to define that. An open question is a question that has to be answered with a lot of thoughts and a lot of words, okay? A closed question is answered with one word or yes or no, okay? Do you like pizza? Open or closed?
Close.
Closed, because the answer would be yes or no, right? What type of pizza do you like? Open or closed? Closed, because I'd say one word, pepperoni, right? So that's still closed because you're answering it with one answer, one word, okay? An open question is, what do you like to do when you eat pizza, right? Because that can be a lot of different things, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to, as a group, you're going to go through and reread each question, and you're going to take your marker and you're going to write still the recorder, an O beside the number if it's an open question, and a C beside the question if it's a closed question. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do that with all of your questions. Go now.
What is an environment? What is not the
Closed. What do some animals need? Sounds like what do some? Yeah. Why do the living things depend on each other? Open.
All right, time is up. Eyes back on me. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that can be a tricky thing to do, to classify the questions, but it really helps us think about what the question is really asking and what we'll have to do to find the answer to that question. So, to help our brains be flexible with questions, because you know what? There are reasons why you would want a closed question, and there are reasons times when an open question is more appropriate. Do you think it's sometimes good to have a closed question?
Yes.
Give me an example of a time. Raise your hand. Give me an example of a time it's good to have a closed question.
Just ask, are we going somewhere?
Yeah, sometimes you just need a direct answer. You don't need a whole story about where you're going. You just need to know, are we going somewhere? Do I need to get my stuff together and ready to go, right? All right. But are there times when an open question is better? When would that be better?
Like, if you're going somewhere, like on a vacation, we would be like, where are we going and why?
Yeah. It's good because then you know if you have to pack or what you need to prepare and those kinds of things, right? So it's not like open is better than closed. They're just better for different things to get the answers that you need to solve your problem. Yes, sir.
Or another reason you could do open questions if you're at the doctor's and the doctor asks you what happened to you and how did you get that. You have to tell them the whole story about how it happened.
Right. So an example of a close would be what is wrong, and you can just say my leg hurts, and then he could say what happened, and now you can use the whole story so you can figure out how to solve the problem of your broken leg. Outstanding example. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at your questions because sometimes it helps us be flexible and it sometimes improves a question when we change it from open to closed or from closed to open. So I want you to choose one of your questions on your list that you've already coded as either open or closed, and I want you to reword it. So for example, if you choose an open question, I want you to reword it and make it closed and write that underneath. If you choose a closed question, I want you to reword it and make it open and rewrite that underneath as well. That's why you have space in between the questions, okay? Decide together, you have a different color marker, so write those in a different color. Can you do that now? That'll be good. Oh, yes. Write that underneath. Oh, that marker's not going to be very good.
What is why? Why?
No, it does not.
There are different answers. Would it matter? Would that matter, or would it just be the answer to have? Would it matter to just have one answer, or
Like, you know some of the questions where they just want you to tell like one thing because they don't want a vague list.
Okay.
Does everything about What did you discover as you were changing these questions from open to closed or closed to open? What did you discover? Yes.
If you change the closed to open, you'll notice that you'll find more on that question.
Did it sometimes improve the question? Make it a better question? Can you give me an example?
We changed fish live in an optimum environment to what types of fish live in an optimum environment.
Okay, so their closed question started with do, and the answer was just yes or no. And they changed it to what kind, and they're going to get a lot more answers through that. So sometimes when you change it, you get a better question. Did anybody change an open to a closed? All right, can you share what you did?
We had what are some living things that we depend on, and we changed it to what is one living thing that we depend on.
Okay, and maybe it's the best thing, and trying to zero it into one thing we depend on. Okay, outstanding. Here's what our next step in this process is. You have a lot of questions. Everybody has between 10 and 12 questions, sometimes more, and that's a lot to think about. So what you need to do as a group is read over your questions and prioritize. Who knows what it means to prioritize? What does it mean?
It means
Go ahead. Yes.
it means to choose the priorities or what needs to be done first. What's the most important?
Very good. What needs to be done first or what's most important, okay? Sometimes when I go home, I've got a lot of things to do and I need to decide what's most important. Do I need to do the laundry or make food and feed these crazy hungry kids, right? I have to decide. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to make a choice and decide what's most important. So of the many questions that you have on the paper, I want you, as a group, to decide the 3 most important questions that matter to you as a group. I know that's going to be kind of tough. So you're going to pick 3, and you need to discuss as a group why those are important, okay? And put a star beside them. Go now. Thumbs up if you're ready.
No, we're not.
Outstanding. Okay, markers are down. At this time, we want to, so far you've only worked within your table groups and you've developed questions that matter to your table group, but now you're going to hear the questions of the other groups that are the top priority questions. So we're going to group by group take our paper up and we'll have one representative from the group. That would be somebody who wasn't the recorder, okay? Choose somebody who was not the recorder, and they will share the top 3 questions and why you chose those as your top 3 questions, okay? All right, this group, let's start with you. Who's going to share? All right, come on up. All right, all other groups have your eyes on her. Excuse me. Eyes up here. Eyes and ears. Okay, listen for the top 3.
Our top 3 questions were, what is an optimum environment? because all of our other questions are based off question number 1, what is an optimum environment? We need to know what optimum environment is. We chose question 3 because this is like pulled straight from the question. We thought that was very important, so we chose this one because this one was very intriguing to us, and we were very we were very curious on what the answer was.
Outstanding. I like those reasons. You know, we'll just leave it here and we're just gonna kind of put all the others on top of it. Okay, you know what's interesting? I saw some of the same questions on yours. If you saw any common questions or at least similar questions, give me a thumbs up. Isn't that interesting how we came up with some of the same questions? All right, let's take another group. Let's take this one. Sharon.